How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We have another video to do today that we're going to learn from. Also from the Cajun Cutthroat channel, which we've done some before in the past. This one's going to be another recommendation from First Doublet. So this one is Louis the Ninth, the Crusader King. So I've already hit like on the original video. Links down below if you guys want to go hit like on the original video as well. Hit like on mine. Do all that stuff, hit, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and all that good stuff. Super fun, awesome stuff. He seemed taller than all his men, higher from his shoulders and upward than any of them. A golden great helm on his head, a sword of Germany in his hand. There was never seen such a beautiful knight. St. Louis at the Battle of Almanzara. Description by Jean Villa. Son of French King Louis the Eighth, the Lion, and of Queen Blanche of Castile, Louis the Ninth was born in the castle of Poissy on April the 25th, 1214. Okay, so a couple people was like, hey, you don't have to read this. Well, it helps me retain the knowledge to read it out loud, so that's what we're going to be doing. Sorry. A few weeks before the great victory of the French troops over those of the Holy Roman Empire in England at Bouvines, the ninth king of the House of Capet, Louis XII, was sacred at Reims, a few days only after the burial of his father. Blanche of Castile, regent of the kingdom, did it this way to cut short the desired rebellion, again, of his great vassals. Blanche was for Louis a tender and thoughtful mother. She cared to give him a good education and instilled the principles of a pious faith into him. All his life, the king would spend several hours praying every day. Considered adult, in 1234, Louis married Margaret of Provence. Blanche firstly found her far too beautiful, but she quickly felt reassured, thanks to the great devoutness of the young married couple and their seriousness in their tasks. Impregnated with the ideas of St. Francis of Assisi, Louis regarded justice as his first duty. John de Joinville told, it occurred many times in summer after Mass that he went to the woods of Vincennes and sat, leant his back against an oak tree, and had us sat around him. Anyone who was in trouble came to talk to him without being prevented from speaking by a bailiff or someone else. Beyond this quite well-known image of Louis IX, the king implemented large reforms which fundamentally modernized French law. He definitely forbade the trials by ordeal, judicial duels with some challenges. From then on, none shall be deprived from his rights if he is not convicted of some faults, and if there is no trial, he wrote. Okay, so judicial duels with some challenges. So that was like back in the day where it's like, okay, well, I challenge you to a duel or a joust, right? And if I win and kill you, then I'm free. He's like, no, that's not cool. Okay, so that makes sense. He had some brains on him. The Capetian king also established the supplicatio, the right to appeal against a decision to the royal court, which then became stronger than the courts of justice of the nobles. No class was above the law. We know that in Enguerrand IV of Coucy, Lord of Montmirail, was jailed and condemned with a heavy fine because he had 3 young boys hanged as they had inopportunely hunted on his lands. Pretty harsh back then, jeez. Yet the Capetian was very harsh with those who did not respect the principles of the church. Notably forbidding the practice of usury and forcing Jews to convert. To improve the growth of cities and trade, Louis IX issued silver money, the tournesol, which was legal tender in all his kingdom, contrary to lords' monies. A builder king, he ordered the creation of many hospitals, religious edifices, as well as castles in the newly taken provinces to the royal domain. He also contributed to the development of the very influent University of Paris with the construction of the College of Sorbonne. Louis liked controlling himself the progresses of construction, which were often quick and evidence of the good economic health of the country. During his reign, many cathedrals, the French style, later called Gothic style, were also erected and impressed the Western world. Yeah, because those things are sweet, actually. Like, look at that, right? That's pretty cool. Like, how did they do that back then, you know? In 1242, Alphonse, Count of Poitiers, brother of the king, had to face a rebellion of Poitiers' barons. English King Henry III, who had stirred up the rebellion, landed with his army in Saintonge, willing to take back the English provinces conquered by Philip II of France. The negotiations launched by Louis failed. Consequently, the Capetian gathered the royal army and marched to the enemy. The shock occurred over the bridge of Taillebourg on the Charente River. I know I'm butchering these words, but, you know, I'm trying, guys. As a knight king, Louis charged at the head of his heavy cavalry and routed the Anglo-Poitevin army. This dude's like, up here, it looks like he's just going to be beating somebody with this club-looking thing. That's crazy. All right. The Battle of Taillebourg marked the total victory of France over England in what is sometimes called the First 100 Years' War. Okay. So that was before the 100 Years' War. The Treaty of Paris in 1259 allowed Louis IX to confirm all the conquests of Philip II, Augustus, Normandy, Touraine, and Anjou, and to add Saintonge on the north of the Charente River too. Okay, so they're just going to be taking those lands, is what they're saying. The King of England only kept Guyenne and had to swear allegiance to the French king, his feudal suzerain, thus becoming his vassal as Duke of Aquitaine. Okay. So the King of England was the Duke of Aquitaine. Very interesting. So with the Treaty of Corbeil, Louis IX renounced his claims over Catalonia and was given in exchange Languedoc by James I of Aragon. That's some good coffee. The French crown then stretched out his influence continuously from the English Channel to the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so here we go. Where's the... Okay, the Mediterranean Sea is in the bottom right corner. The Christian world hailed to these fair treaties. Louis IX, then wise king at the head of the most powerful army of the West, benefited from a huge prestige, an impressive feat. His arbitration was required by foreign powers, notably in the case of inheritance conflicts. The King of France only left his neutrality when the Papal States were threatened of an invasion by Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II. Then Louis offered his protection to Pope Innocent IX, and then Imperial army turned back to avoid a fight against the powerful French army. Don't click away. Watch the rest of this. I seen you go to click away. Since the sack of Constantinople in 1204, the Byzantine Empire suffered from the heavy military and financial problems. Desperate to find funding, Baldwin II of Constantinople sold precious Christian reliquaries. After a long inquiry to check its authenticity, the crown of thorns was acquired by the French king for the huge sum of $135,000. 135,000 livres tornios. It would be followed by 22 other reliquaries, including a piece of the True Cross, the Holy Blood, the image of Edessa, and the point of the Holy Lance. These were put in a sumptuous decor, the Sainte-Chapelle of Paris, built specifically for this purpose on the Isle de la Cité. That's a cool looking place. That looks really cool. Wow. That's a lot of stained glass, jeez. The French capital became equal to Rome for its prestige and its holiness. From then on, the Capetian dynasty was seen as the spearhead of the Christian world. I mean, yeah, that's pretty grand. This glory shone over the entire kingdom of France, the wealthiest and the most populated of the European countries. I mean, it is a pretty big country. As well as the most developed in intellectual and artistic domains. The legacy of this Capetian Golden Age was to be very important in the construction of the French national sentiment. In December 1244, Louis fell seriously ill. On the brink of his death, he swore to join the crusade if he recovered. He did recover, and was true to his word. Indeed, Jerusalem fell into the hands of the Muslims the same year. Then, the Seventh Crusade, exclusively French, like the First Crusade, entered into preparation. In August 1248, a fleet cast off from the harbors of Marseille and Argos-Martes, on board 3,000 knights and 12,000 infantry, along with his brothers Alphonse, Count of Poitiers, Robert I, Count of Ortours, and Charles of Anjou. Louis IX made the bold choice to invade Egypt, heart of the power of Islam. June 1249, the Crusaders landed before Damietta and swept away Egyptian defenses. The French took the port city and set free many Christian prisoners jailed in the galls of the fortress. These first successes enticed the Capetian to carry on his advance south to Cairo. And probably check out some pyramids while he's there, right? Pretty sweet. In January 1250, the Crusaders were blocked by the fortress of Al-Mansura, built near one tributary of the Nile, skillfully defended by the general Fokker and ad-Din. February the 8th, the French vanguard, led by the fiery Robert, Count of Artois, managed to cross the river on a narrow ford. He looked more like a Chevy guy to me, out there driving a Ford in the desert. Disobeying to the king, Robert and his men rushed to Al-Mansura, whose gates were purposely let open. Oh boy, it's about to go down, huh? Then they were trapped in the narrow by streets and slaughtered to the last one by the Mamluk garrison of the general barbers named the Crossbowman. A few hours later, the rest of the Crusader army also crossed the river. Saracens, reinforced by the excellent Mamluk, mounted archers, then threw a rain of arrows and a flood of Greek fire, causing panic in Christian ranks. Seeing his men at the brink of collapse, Louis gathered his knights and launched a strong charge towards the swirling mass of Mamluks. In hand-to-hand combat, the French, as their Saracens called them, gained back their superiority and cut to pieces their enemies. Every time in the thick of combat, ceaselessly haranguing his men, Louis IX was greater on his own than the battle, Joinville wrote. On the night of this memorable day, the defeated Egyptian army retreated. Yet because of the impetuousness of Robert, Count of Artois, what should have been a triumph for Louis IX was no more than a costly victory. In the following days, a typhus epidemic broke out, among the victors and prevented them from carrying on the offensive. Okay. The Frankish column was no more than the shadow of itself, and the king had to accept a difficult retreat to Damietta. On April 6th, the Crusaders were encircled by Bear's men in the village of Ferisker. After a heroic defense, Louis IX was captured by the enemy. For the first time, a king of France was the object of a ransom. Threatened to death on many occasions, Louis impressed Muslims and Christians with his stoicism. The ransom was quickly prepared by the courageous Margaret of Provence. Although she was about to give birth, who forced rich Templars to lend money. Once set free, Louis stopped over at the Crusader states, which were quite weakened by never-ending internal conflicts. There's a lot going on here. As soon as she arrived, the King of France was immediately named the chief of Eastern Christians and strongly reorganized the defense of Acre, Jaffa, Caesarea, Sidon. From then on, well aware of the political subtleties of the Levant, he managed to revive the internal tensions of the Muslim world between the House of Damascus and the House of Cairo. Worried his former gaolers, then covered him with splendid presents and liberated all his companions taken at Ferisker. Louis also managed to keep at bay the dreaded sect of assassins whose great master, the Old Man of the Mountain, was fascinated with the charisma and the unwavering faith of the Capetian. Do me a favor and hit subscribe real quick. Thank you very much. The first Western king with a global diplomatic vision. The King of France sent an embassy to Mongol Khans, enemies of Islam and tolerant with Christians. For real, subscribing helps, so you should do that. However, he could not take personally advantage of these first promising contacts. The deaths of his mother forced him to come back to France in 1254. The obscure but huge work realized by the Capetian during his presence in the Crusader states allowed their last true recovery. (1261). Bears, who had become Sultan of Egypt, launched a great offensive against these Frankish overseas territories, which had fallen back into anarchy since Louis's departure. Against the advices of his counselors, the King of France, despite his declining health, decided to take the cross again. Thanks to the fleet of Charles of Anjou, who became Charles I of Naples in the meantime, Louis and his army landed in Tunisia. Okay. On July 24th, 1270, Carthage was taken by the Crusaders. Then they besieged Tunis, which was defended by Muhammad I al-Mustanza. Alright. Yet, operations were made very difficult because of the scorching heat. Attackers and defenders were dying of dysentery. Uh-oh. John Tristan, son of the king, died on August 4th. Louis fell sick from dysentery too and died on August 25th. Jeez. In his last breath, he pronounced the name Jerusalem. That's it. His young son Philip succeeded him. Yet it was the experienced Charles of Anjou who negotiated the end of the siege against a huge indemnity and ended the crusade shortly after. The remnants of Louis IX were placed in the Basilica of St. Denis after a long journey through Sicily, Italy, and France. Already considered a saint in his lifetime, the Capetian from then on was the object of a true veneration. His reliquaries were progressively taken out of his tomb and scattered in the entire Christian world. Many French prelates asked for his canonization as soon as 1272, many times interrupted. The inquiry of the Holy See lasted over 25 years. And I learned recently the canonization is basically the thing that makes them a saint, officially. For obvious political reasons, King Philip IX the Fair, great son. The hell is a great son? I don't know. Let me know down below. Great son of Louis IX put pressure on the papacy to speed up the procedure. August 11th, 1297. Giving to the crown of France an unmatched prestige in a holy order, Pope Boniface the 8th, announced the canonization of Louis IX under the name of Saint Louis of France. Louis or Louis? It's Louis, right? Good deal. Oh, St. Louis over here. All right, guys. Well, that was St. Louis the 9th, the Crusader King, the warrior of France. You guys have a super fun, awesome day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye.